How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at Love Ghost. This is from the year 2000, is directed by Kazuyuki Shibuya, and stars Risa Goto, Ryuei Matsuda, and Shinji Takahashi. This is actually based on a manga by Junji Ito, and that would of course be Lovesickness. Lovesickness is one of his longer stories. It takes up the first half or so of this volume, and I think it's kind of an underrated story, so I was really glad when I found out it got turned into a movie. Wish they had used the Lovesickness title. That's a cooler title in my opinion. But a lot of Junji Ito stuff has trouble translating outside the medium, especially because he usually does big over-the-top creatures and gore and just crazy stuff that it's hard to, either make as a practical effect or animate. But in Lovesickness, there's a lot of creepy ghost, and there's this kid at the crossroads. It actually wouldn't be too hard to get a lot of those elements to transfer over. I'd have to say Lovesickness is probably one of his more adaptable works. So I was actually kind of sad that they changed a whole bunch, and they could have done a lot more. And that's the thing, is in general, I liked this movie. I thought it was good. It was great to see Junji Ito adapted as a movie, and I liked a lot of it. It kept my interest, and, like the bones of Junji Ito's story, the core elements, this crossroads figure, the ritual, the ideas of drama amongst the teenagers, as well as the, urban legend of this ritual, and how people talked about how, oh, I heard someone died doing that. A lot of the base structure is there. The end of this movie also gets super twist and turny with some fun reveals, and it also has that classic J-horror style cinematography, which I really do like. A lot of American movies are way too polished, and this has that classic J-horror sense of kind of realism behind it, So I did like it, and if there was no comic, I would be like, okay, that's not the biggest, best classic J-horror thing, it's not my favorite, but it's still an okay one. It's still pretty cool. It's kind of a B-side and not bad, but the trouble with adaptations is you'll constantly being compared, and needless to say, Lovesickness, way better. But all the plot elements in this movie are super scrambled up, almost like they put Junji Ito in a blender, and it's like, the original story, you had this guy, and he's the one returning to his hometown, but he has this secret that keeps him from getting together with this girl, and as time goes on, the ritual happens more and more often, and all the friends start to have these crazy things happen to them, and the weight of both the secret and the episodic adventures kind of starts to build and become really big and really become this whole thing. Here, it's not so much, They switch perspectives to the female character, and they don't give her the secret element. There are plot reveals and twists, but you don't get the sense that she's carrying that weight. And there's only like a few ritual scenes in here. It's not that many. And in turn, you don't get to do that many of the fun adventures. You don't feel it weighing on the friends as much because it only takes out a few of them. And the Crossroads boy is like the only ghost you see in the movie. A big part of the original comic was the ghost coming back and starting to pile up and having the city be super duper haunted. But you don't really get to see. I can't think that of any of the ghosts really outside of the ritual one, So I do wish it was bigger. It was a case of you had an easier job to adapt because there's not as many crazy Junji Ito special effects, but even though you had an easier job, you did even less of it. It's a case of, I wish we got more ghosts. I wish we got more horror sequences. And, it's like, I didn't really notice in the moment that it took until, like, the end of Act 1 to get the first ritual to happen. But at the end of the movie, I did notice because just not enough did happen, you know? I get you can't go as big as the original manga, because, I mean, the manga did end pretty big, but I'd like to see at least a little more, you know? It just felt a little flatter than it should, which kind of sucks because in general I was liking it. But yeah, it didn't go that far, and it really just mixed up all the plot and the characters, and I wish it was a little more faithful as well. Overall, though, I don't want to say it's a bad movie. It's not Junji Ito's best adaptation, but it sure is definitely not the worst thing ever either. And I, in general, did like it enough, and I watched through it pretty quick. It's just one that, you know, not to be the overly critical fan of the source material, but I just knew how much better it could be. On its own, it's still a fine movie, but it's not the best thing ever, even in that regard. So overall, it's a cool movie. I would say watch it. It's just not as good as it could have been. And it, you know, it goes from being an okay movie, but if it was better, it could have been a classic, you know? Let's talk a bit about the plot. I'm not going to do any major spoilers. I do want to say my piece on a few plot points and break down and analyze a few things, but I don't have to do the end to do that. So let's go ahead and dig a little deeper. We open up with this girl, Midori, and she's returning to her hometown with her single mother. She's been away from this town for a long, long time, but her and her family are moving back there now. Now, why she's moving back, we find out that she's been having a reoccurring dream, this one particular shrine, and seeing this mysterious boy. It's a good way to get the creepy character and have some horror earlier on in the movie, because like I said, they don't actually do a ritual till like the end of Act 1. So it's a good way to get some horror and surrealism in the movie. I'll always go for the extra scares, right? But she goes to school and finds that the shrine is indeed a real thing, and it's on her way to school, so you either have to walk past it or go the long way. So it's upsetting that the shrine's really there, but she gets to school, and she meets some friends, and the friends will all have their little dramas, but more than meeting new friends, reuniting with an old one. Ryusuke, her old childhood friend that she hasn't seen in like 10 years, is still there, and she is excited to meet him again, and the two hit it off, and we have a bit of a budding romance. But of course, it's not that easy. Relationship drama, it's a key part of the lovesickness story. So-and-so likes so-and-so, but that person likes this person, likes that person. It's not a love triangle, it's a love spider web, I guess you'd say. And, okay, maybe not that complex, but point is, relationship drama. And what do you do if you have this confusing relationship mess? You gotta do your ritual. You see, they find out that there's a ritual where you go down to the haunted shrine from earlier, you cover your face, and the first stranger that walks by, you ask them advice. You know, will I succeed at love? And the stranger just says whatever the stranger wants to and moves on. Could be good, could be bad. You don't know what you're gonna get, but you like to think that people would be nice and give you positive advice. So it's a little ritual you do at the shrine. But there's a rumor that if you go to the shrine, you might see this mysterious boy. He's dressed all in black and is known for being really handsome. However, when he talks to you, he's going to give you a bad prediction about your future, and this will usually occupy your brain until you do something drastic and extreme. So you don't want to get this guy because he's going to curse you. But of course, they're going to do it anyway. We'll get a few of these rituals, a few dramatic scenes, a few really sad moments for the teens, and they have to figure out said mystery. Now, again, I already griped a lot about how the comic was better, but I do have to analyze this. The comic was better. They decided to make it center around one shrine. So you could do one little creepy location. And I get wanting to have a creepy location and keep this thing more confined. In the manga, it was any crossroads. And the city was bigger and more empty. It wasn't so much a tiny creepy space as it was a big liminal space. Wandering around a big empty city, not knowing what's around each corner, and at any moment you could encounter someone doing the ritual, or maybe somehow you come across the boy at the crossroads. It was bigger, emptier, and creepier, and again also happened a lot more. And the thing is, the boy coming up in his fog, you see that a few times, and I think the fog was like old school CGI, is not great looking, but to have it happen all the time in the comic, have it be a reoccurring thing, and actually show how terrible these things could be, because in the comic they got pressed a heck of a lot further. Having it be more reoccurring, having the threats be bigger, just the sense of him walking down the empty streets and hearing his footsteps thunk, 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 it was so good and so cool. And here I feel we just are getting a fraction of it. And also, yeah, he has this weird little fog cloud that kind of just follows him. In the manga, it was a seaside town, and the whole town would fog over. Much more of a naturalistic excuse, also covering everything, giving it a Silent Hill vibe. Yeah, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but the manga was better. But after they do a few episodes, not many again, I do wish we got a whole bunch more kills in this. After they do a few episodes, they start to figure things out, and we do get some twist. And it was fun to go on this twisty-turny journey, and it kept me interested in wanting to see the reveals in the last part. But let me say, they really, really went far from Ito in this. If you've just seen the movie, don't think you know what happens in the comic, because they're going way off in its own direction. In addition to changing the ending, they did make a lot of things where they would flow a little better for the movie. Because again, Junji Ito, kind of his play is usually to make things like softer and lower key, and usually keeping things kind of simple until you get to the twisted, messed up part. But here they make things a little more cinematic, so the girls aren't just going to be talking, they'll be at a party or they'll be playing tarot cards. And when you have a flashback to them as kids, they're going to be wandering through like a junkyard. So it is a little bigger, but then in turn, the regular scenes are bigger, the ghost scenes are smaller. It's more of a plateau than when you angle them up like that, So overall, it's okay. It's not the best Junji Ito adaptation, but it's not a terrible movie either. It's just one that I could see being a lot better than it is. And I do wish it stayed closer, and I wish there was more stuff, and I wish we got all those crazy ghosts running around too. But as it stands, it's okay. It's just a case of it could totally be better, but it's fine, I guess, Anyway, though, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my Junji Ito playlist. I've talked about a lot of his stuff. I talked about the Uzumaki and the Long Dream movie. I also talked about a lot of the comics, and I also unboxed Pocket Curses and, talked about the Maniac anime, so it's getting kind of long there. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.